Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, A Monk in Cloud. In today's video, as you have already seen the thumbnail, we are going to see how one can become a cloud engineer and what is the roadmap he or she needs to follow in order to become a cloud engineer. All right, so let me go over my GitHub where I have documented all the things that are needed. So we'll go one by one and discuss the concepts in detail. So this is my GitHub page where I have documented entire thing. I'll make sure to add the link to this GitHub in my description box below. All right. So please make sure to check that out. So the first things first, let's talk about the skill sets that you need to have in order to become a cloud engineer. First things first, you need to understand the Linux operating system and you should be proficient enough to write your own scripts like bash scripts. All right. So you need to automate few things like having a cron job, setting up a cron job, and few examples of scriptings involves those things. All right. So you need to know how to write bash scripts basics first, then go to intermediate level, and first things first, understand the concepts of Linux. What is boot process, how it is going to work, right? So what are the different file systems under Linux? All those things you need to be aware, and also try to get hands-on understanding on Linux commands, right? So how you do that? So you can spin up a virtual machine on any of your cloud. So it can be an Azure cloud or it can be an AWS cloud. Go ahead and spin up an EC2 instance or a virtual machine, then connect to that Linux virtual machine and then start writing your own commands or your own scripts. All right, so that's the first part. Second one is networking. You need to have a strong networking background. You need to know the computer networking concepts very well. So what is TCP IP model? What are protocols? Different protocols we have. What is HTTP, HTTPS protocol, SSH? So what are the different port numbers? And you need to have a strong background in the networking concept. You need to understand the architecture, because in cloud the architects are going to provide us the architecture diagram. As a cloud engineer, you need to be in a position to deploy all those things on your own, right? So to understand those things, you need to understand the networking concepts first, right? So you need to also understand the SSL TLS certificates, right? So if you see here, this GitHub is encrypted. So how is that encryption happening? All those things you need to know. All right. So the next thing is Python. Python is one of the widely accepted programming languages in the cloud and DevOps roles, because it is easy to understand. Anyone can start writing a Python code in the day one of his or learning, right? So you need to know how to write your own Python scripts to automate the cloud infrastructure or any of the things for that matter, right? So if you're concentrating on AWS, you need to know how to write Boto3 scripts, right? So Boto3 is an AWS SDK and it is based out of Python. All right? So you need to know how to write Python scripts, basics, for loops, while loops, all those for each loops, conditional statements, everything you need to know. So please let me know if you want to have the tutorials on my channel itself for all the concepts that I'm discussing. I'll make sure to do that in the future days, right? So fourth one, this is one of the important thing, which is you need to learn any of the cloud for that matter. It can be an AWS or Azure or GCP. So if you're asking me which cloud to pick, so I'll suggest go ahead and learn AWS first, because the only reason is there are a lot of tutorials available online. I'm not saying that Azure or GCP doesn't have that, but AWS community is huge, right? So you can get all the tutorials. If you find any hiccups while you're building projects or anything, there are a lot of people who will be helping you if you're getting started with AWS, right? So At the same time, Azure and GCP is also good cloud providers. You can pick up any one of them, but if you ask me, I will suggest AWS, right? And this, it is just a suggestion. You can pick any one of them. Next, learning cloud will not help you. You need to automate the infrastructure. So if you want to automate the infrastructure, you need to learn infrastructure as a code tools. So one of the widely accepted and widely used infrastructure as a code tool in today's cloud market is Terraform. Because Terraform, you can write code for your AWS, Azure, GCP, right? So whereas there are cloud native tools, cloud native infrastructure as code tools. For example, if you're going with AWS, you have cloud formation templates. You can also write the code for your infrastructure by using cloud formation templates. But the suggested one is Terraform, right? So please consider learning Terraform also. I have created some tutorials on Terraform on my playlist. If you go here, there is a separate playlist called Terraform plus AWS. I'll be uploading more and more videos on that in the coming days, but you need to learn Terraform. That is one important tool. Next, Docker. In today's world, all the applications that you're saying, it is all containerized because of the modern tools and technologies that we have, right? So Docker is one of the tool that every cloud engineer needs to know. Along with Docker, if you learn Kubernetes, that is good to have, but to get started, to land a cloud job, Docker is fine as of now. But if you want to sustain in the market, I'm saying well in advance that you also need to learn Kubernetes as well. So learning Docker is not sufficient, but I'm concentrating to the beginners for now to just land a cloud job. So Docker is important for them. Next is to learn CI/CD tools. So what are CI/CD? Continuous integration, continuous delivery, and continuous deployment. So these tools will help you deliver the code in an automated way. So example could be Jenkins, because Jenkins is there since long days and people are using that. And if you want to switch over to the newest thing, you have GitHub Actions. So there are Argo CI/CD. So there are a lot of tools available in the market. You can pick any one of them and start learning that. So these are the skills that you need to have as a cloud engineer, right? So I'm going to explain that in 10 different 10 pointers so that you can understand what you can do better, right? So these steps will help you. These are, you can consider that you can, these are the additional steps, right? So first things first, you need to gain a solid understanding of cloud computing concepts and terminologies by taking any of the online courses, or you can read the articles. If you're a reader, go and read articles. If you want to watch tutorials, you can go buy a course on Udemy or Coursera, or you can also use YouTube, because nowadays the cloud community is growing hugely and there are a lot of tutorials available for free, right? So this is one tip. Second one, choose a specific cloud provider. We have already discussed on this, but I'm adding it again here just to make sure that you don't forget it, right? So if you go ahead and get yourself an Azure subscription, you will have, I think, $100 or $200 credits for free. And in the same way, there are some concession for learning AWS also, and Google's offer, I think, $300 of free credits for you to learn, right? So make use of that and start learning it, right? Next thing, learn the basics of infrastructure as a code. I've already mentioned all of them. I'm just summarizing these things so that you won't forget it, right? So infrastructure as a code tool can be Terraform or CloudFormation. I have already explained this, so please don't forget to learn this one. So if you're learning a cloud along with deploying that the cloud infrastructure in your management console or the portal, also learn how to deploy the same thing using the infrastructure as a code tool. That will help you a lot in a long run, because in production or in an organization you won't deploy resources just in the console. You would be doing that using any of the infrastructure as code tools, right? So learn that. Fourth, as I told you, you need to learn containerization. One thing is Docker and the next thing is Kubernetes. See, I did not mention Kubernetes there, but I'm mentioning it here because these technologies are widely used to deploy and manage containerized applications in the cloud environments, right? So next things, learn about the DevOps culture, DevOps concepts and practices like continuous integration, delivery, and deployment. These things I've explained. You need to learn this also, right? You might think that I'm just repeating the same things. No, I'm not. I'm just expanding those things and summarizing so that you won't forget it after watching this video, right? Next, learn about security best practices. Like you need to, let's say I'm a new person to cloud and I'm onboarding myself into cloud, so I need to be in a position to judge what services should I have access to. For example, let's say my friend Bob is there and he's and let's say he wants to just work on lambda functions in AWS. So I should be in a situation as an administrator or as a cloud engineers. I need to grant only lambda functions access to that particular person, right? So you need to uh, do do some research on that by writing a IAM policy. You can grant only fine-grained access. We call it as principle of least privilege in cloud environment, right? So those things you need to also concentrate. Next, I forgot to add this here in the skill set, whereas I'm mentioning it here. Learn about monitoring and logging tools. You need to learn CloudWatch specifically if you're concentrating on your AWS. You need to learn CloudWatch. Azure Monitor is there. ELK stack for cloud environments. These things are compulsory. You need to learn this, right? So next, on top of this, if you know this concept, it will help you a lot, right? So everything is automated today, and we are going serverless. So learn serverless computing such as Azure functions, AWS Lambda, and Google Cloud Functions. So these are called as FAS, functions as a service, which will help you a lot in your cloud career, right? Specifically, so I was knowing only this concept when I entered to cloud industry, but by this itself I landed a job, and then I started exploring other tools and services also, right? So that is one of the tip you can consider. So ninth point, gain hands-on experience by working on real-world projects and practicing in online communities such as GitHub and Stack Overflow. Also, if you're interested, join AWS Community Builders program, Microsoft Learn Student Ambassadors. Those are really good opportunities for students nowadays to take part in these things, right? Next, learn continuously and stay updated on new technologies, right? So there are a lot of layoffs going on in the industry right now, but it is our thing to learn continuously and stay up to date so that we'll be in a better position, right? So last thing, it is also important to note that in addition to these technological skills, cloud engineers should also have strong problem solving and communication skills, as well as the ability to work well in a team, right? Because you will be interacting with a lot of developers, you will be helping the developers to deploy their code, and you need to have a strong communication skill, right? And you should be a good team person. You may also consider getting certified by cloud providers like AWS, Azure, and GCP also, right? It can help you stand out in the job market and demonstrate your knowledge and expertise, right? So these are the things that I got into my mind. So I've written all of them into my GitHub article. You can go through this. So if I've made any mistake, so please let me know so that I will also learn from that, right? So that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.